My 26F husband, 27M, checks out of parenting whenever he's mad at me. TLDR. My husband of 4 years is always checking out of parenting when he's mad at me no matter why we fight, and I barely realized it yesterday. This weekend my family had a Halloween party and my husband picked up a Saturday shift. We have 4 kids. B. 8F. From his previous relationship. C. 6F. From my previous relationship. J. 2F. H. 1M. The party didn't start until 4:30. And very last minute we decided on a costume for H that would include some hand embroidery on my part. I fully admit I got absorbed in this mini project, and as a result didn't get myself or the kids ready by the time my husband was home at 1:30, and my husband was upset, irritated, and I understood why, but we were still early at this point for the party and I apologized. There was still some laundry that had part of his costume and most of my clothes in it, and while waiting for it to dry I stopped my husband from getting the kids dressed because I wanted as little time as possible for them to potentially get dirty. As soon as I said not to get the costumes on the kids because I wanted to get myself ready and let the clothes dry, he threw his hands up and said that if I was going to constantly pick apart how he gets the kids ready he wouldn't do anything. And he didn't. I got them dressed. I did their hair, packed the diaper bag, moved our car up, switched car seats from car 1 to car 2, and loaded the juice and pumpkins we bought for the party into the car. FYI, we left at the time we said we would leave. We weren't late. I didn't get ready. I barely got to shower before I threw my hair up in the same bun I wear every day, no makeup and just jeans and a top. I was so upset. I'm realizing that he does this every time he's mad at me. About our kids or not. He sulks in his room or around and ignores me while playing our kids but not actually doing anything to help. It makes me feel so alone, and I think he's doing it as a punishment. I tried to tell him how much it hurts my feelings, but today he says he doesn't have anything left in the tank, so he is ignoring me but texting me what he wants to say. He said all he was looking forward to was the Halloween party and that I ruined it and made him miserable, so today he has nothing left. I want to think of a way to explain my feelings to him that doesn't immediately make him defensive. Editing to add. There are a few common questions. Our 6 and 8-year-olds are each from previous relationships we were in before meeting each other. B is my SD and C is his SD. I can completely agree I probably had a disproportionate response to him trying to get them ready. As I said in a comment before though, it comes at the cost of him making comments about how I just sat there and did makeup while he would have gotten them ready. And then asking why I bothered when it's a family party. Yes, I do feel the need sometimes to micromanage, and I'm fighting hard to ignore it. But he usually offers hurtful help. Example, saying he will change a diaper but then not getting the diaper and wipes, so either way I have to stop what I'm doing to get said things. Example, he likes to make dinner nights. I'm overwhelmed and I'm incredibly thankful that he does. But then the kitchen is a mess. Food is out he used to cook with, and dishes are not done. I definitely do want us to do marriage counseling. I think that we both have different love languages and we are using our own to try and show it instead of each other's. Neither of us feels heard or appreciated, and I agree with commenters saying it's not a last resort. Counseling is a tool for preventing the cracks in a foundation. I was emotional when I wrote this yesterday, so I apologize if there are things missing you are wondering. I'm trying to get to every comment, but I just wanted to do this edit to let everyone know I see what you're saying and I'm taking everyone with actual advice to heart. There are several factors here. No one is a saint. And no one is being malicious. You do need some professional help though. I could armchair diagnose all day. but I don't think I have enough information to even guess the situation. Couples therapy isn't something you should do as a last resort. It is the first thing you should do when communication breaks down. Your communication has broken down. This road leads to resentment and inevitable divorce. You've both had previous failed relationships, and often you've brought the bad habits of those failed relationships into your current relationship. Couples therapy helps you re-establish communication, identify bad habits, and learn how to explain your feelings without hurting or blaming each other. For the sake of your kids, don't wait until this destroys your family. So his response isn't necessarily healthy, but the way in which he is wording it makes it sound like he has had repeated issues with how you treat him, and that he's checking out emotionally from you completely. I would recommend couples counseling. And when you go, you need to be open to the possibility that you may be part of the problem here. An unhealthy reaction to poor treatment by a spouse doesn't mean that the poor treatment by the spouse doesn't also need to be addressed. When you're a parent, and there is a co-parent in your life, be it a current spouse or an ex you're trying to cooperate with, you need to know that them doing something differently than you would is not the same as them doing something wrong. If they took them to get a haircut, and it's not one you would have chosen, too bad. If they feed them French toast for breakfast when you were planning on giving them cereal, great. If in your house you plan to give them a cell phone at 12, and your ex happens to give them one at 11, oh well. Unless it's about immediate safety or long-term health and moral character, you let the other parent make decisions too. Not letting him dress the kids over a matter of 10 minutes was controlling, and a stupid thing to try and correct. You started the fight that night for literally nothing. I also, as a co-parent, would have been frustrated at the lack of planning you showed, which was causing us to be late. Your 8 and 6-year-olds don't make your time management decisions. If they want a hand-embroidered costumes, that has to be decided before the day of the party. If you know you have a party the same day, then you shouldn't be washing the costumes and having them still wet a couple of hours before the event, or not planning costumes until the day of. If I was working all day, then came home and nothing which we agreed needed to be done for a party that day was done because of poor decision-making, that would irritate me too. It sounds like he came home from work to find nothing that needed to be done. And then when he tried to help you felt the need to nitpick his very reasonable course of action. All the while defending your complete lack of good choices when it came to time management with the kids. And the combination was too much for him to deal with in terms of frustration and hypocrisy. Again, his response was childish and not at all helpful. But you're the one who caused the initial issues. If you're coming to him about how you feel without apologizing for what you did and acknowledging you were wrong, then the conversations is not going to go anywhere. Okay, I've read through a lot of the comments here, and while I do think there might be an issue of you overcorrecting your husband, I think the larger problem is that he thinks it's okay to punish you and the kids for any correction and seeing any and all correction as negative. Take the helping in the kitchen and leaving it a bigger mess thing from your edit. My ex-husband pulled that all the time. Meanwhile, he told everybody how much he cooked and how hard he worked and that I was lazy and didn't. He would use every single pot and pan in the kitchen, trash every possible surface, spill stuff in places I didn't know you could, leave food out, and say he'd done the dishes by literally only washing the dishes we ate on and leaving absolutely everything else. I would use the time while he was putting the kids to bed to completely get my kitchen back to working order for the next day. It often took me more than an hour. He wanted credit for doing anything, but all I saw was that he doubled my workload. It sounds like you're kind of in the same situation here. He wants to do things at his time and in his way. And while that's appropriate, it isn't appropriate if he's making you go find the things he needs to do the job, leaving you with more work than you'd have if you'd taken care of it. If he's making you do double the work as punishment for speaking up at all, I think the real issue is that he sees any correction as a negative, and then how's that it is entirely appropriate for him to completely disengage in response. I really do think you guys need therapy. Because if you're not allowed to speak up and say that something needs to be done properly so that it doesn't double your workload, then you aren't partners. If he isn't allowed to do something in a totally appropriate way, just differently than how you would, then you aren't partners. Maybe it's just miscommunication in the end, but I think it's bigger than that. You definitely need therapy together. Could you have undiagnosed ADHD? I know 4 kids a lot and the baby is still so young. But you sound so all over the place with your thoughts and planning. I can see how your spouse got irritated. You need to let him be a parent and stop micromanaging. You remind me a lot of my mom. She has really bad anxiety. And she's a huge perfectionist. It's gotten a lot better. But when I was a kid, it was really bad. A good example. There was a very specific way she wanted the dishes to be organized in the dishwasher. She wanted them all to be facing a certain direction, a certain distance apart, in certain locations. And it all varied depending on what kind of dish it was. And she felt like it had to be done that way. Otherwise the dishes wouldn't get clean. But as a kid, I couldn't always get it right every time. I have ADHD, which was especially difficult on my mom because I was very disorganized. But I tried. I have a very vivid memories of wanting to make her happy and trying to surprise her by putting all of the dishes in the dishwasher, without being prompted, while she was away. When she came home I hid. And I was so giddy. I knew she was going to be so happy. Except she wasn't. She got upset because they weren't done right, and yelled at my dad because she thought he did them. I was absolutely devastated. This happened on many occasions. I would do the dishes, and she would either get upset with me, or she would thank me and then redo them how she wanted them to be done. So, eventually, I stopped trying to do the dishes because I could never, ever do them right. Can you guess what happened next? Why doesn't anybody ever help me in this house? Why am I always the one doing everything by myself? I couldn't ever win. My point is, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. My mom had this mentality that she had to do everything by herself because she was the only one who could do it right. Even now, she refuses help because she's afraid that she won't get it done right. I think your husband is frustrated because he's trapped in this now-and situation. He wants to help, but you won't let him. So he stops trying to help. But then you get upset because, why isn't he helping? Quote, have you ever heard of learned helplessness? They did an experiment on dogs that involved trapped them in a room with no escape. At random intervals, the floor, which was electrified, would deliver a painful shock. They noted that, at first, the dogs desperately tried to escape the room. However, after a while, they resigned themselves to the fact that there was no way to escape the inevitable pain. So they stopped trying. In fact, at one point, the researchers opened the door and blocked it with an obstacle that the dogs could easily jump over. But the dogs didn't even try. I think your husband is exasperated because he feels like you won't let him help. So why should he try? You mentioned that you told him how much it hurts you, but have you asked him about his feelings? Why did asking him to stop getting the kids into their costumes make him so upset? Imagine things from your husband's perspective. You have plans to be at a party at a certain time. Before you can leave for the party, certain things must be done. Getting the kids dressed and in the car. Getting hair and makeup and costumes done. Maybe even preparing a food item or a decoration. You're anxious that these things won't be done on time. Especially because you know how hard it is to get 4 squirming kids dressed and in the car. To make things worse, you've agreed to pick up a shift, only adding to the stress. Luckily, your partner promises that things will be done on time. Phew, that's a huge relief. Except you come home to find that your partner had broken their promise. They got distracted and nothing is done. Now you're upset, angry, and stressed, but you're trying to push past it because you know it wasn't intentional and these things happen sometimes. So you decide to take some initiative and tackle the most difficult job: getting your 4 excited kids into their costumes. You're hoping your partner will be pleased, and that it will lessen the stress both of you feel. However, instead of being grateful and thanking you, they tell you to stop what you're doing, that you're doing it right, or at the right time, that they want to do it themselves. You feel? I'd be pretty damn upset. I'm just trying to help. Because I know that you're stressed. I'm stressed because you didn't fulfill your promise. And instead of being thanked or treated with any kind of gratitude, you're not letting me help you. You're telling me that I'm doing it wrong. So why should I bother helping? You clearly don't appreciate what I'm doing. So what's the point? And then, if you were to pull me aside and tell me that you were hurt because I didn't help, I'd be furious. I tried to help and you said to stop. Because you wanted to do it yourself. And now you're mad that I didn't help? So not to demonize you, but I'm identifying a common communication breakdown that happens between women and men here. And I'm gonna point it out and you can tell me if you feel it's valid or not. You have, in your mind, an order to which things should or must be done. You're not communicating this order clearly and concisely from the beginning with justification to your partner before the task begins, and then stopping or correcting their actions throughout as they deviate from this plan. And while it may seem small and constructive to you, it feels to him as though he's being micromanaged because he feels he's doing the right taste. And so do you, but is being corrected for no reason, despite you having, in your mind, a very valid reason. It's like you having the blueprint to a piece of IKEA furniture and trying to direct someone how to put it together without showing them the pictures. They're doubtlessly gonna need constant corrections because they're following a blueprint that they can't see, and it wears and stresses both of you. You can only tell someone they're doing something wrong so many times before they just quit trying altogether. I think your husband is at that point. Would it have been the end of the world if your kids got their costumes a bit dirty? Last-minute hand embroidery probably didn't register high on his list of priorities. Work on your communication skills. And learn to compromise. E.g., only spend time doing embroidery if you've agreed it's okay for everyone. And you have a plan to get everything else done which needs doing. I thought I was reading an AITA post and was ready to give you an ESH verdict. You got yourself in the weeds on this embroidery project. While time is slipping away, how could you have not thrown some clothes in the dryer? I never understand people who wait till everything else is done to start laundry. Laundry is a background chore. Throw it in. Do something while it's washing. Put it in the dryer. Do something while it's drying. Since it involved his costume, I understand him walking in annoyed. He tried to do what he could think of to help, and that was to get the kids ready. Then you tell him not to do that. So he ends up not doing anything for the kids. Which was clear frustration on his part for you micromanaging him, when you yourself were managing time poorly all day long. That's just a total communication breakdown. Then you go on to say you didn't even have time to shower, get ready, you're so upset. Reminder. Whose real fault is that? Obviously, yeah, he could have been doing the loading the car, working on their hair, or whatever you micromanaged and directed him to do. Yet you also don't quite tell us that you attempted to do that. You didn't apologize and say, listen, I didn't want the costumes to get dirty, but I would appreciate it if you did. So we really don't know how the rest of that got handled. All we know if he threw up his hands and said that he won't do anything. A frustrated utterance, of course, but it didn't really mean he locked himself in the room and you were begging for help loading pumpkins in the car and he refused. That we don't know. All these weird people saying you were some kind of wrong because you asked him not to put their costumes on early cause they'd get dirty. What the hell? I also have 4 kids and a busy life, and it is a juggling act. No matter how annoyed one gets with their partner. And it happens all the time. There is no excuse to check out. I'm guessing this is a situation where you take care of most of the home stuff and dictate how that goes down. And sometimes he resents that. So he acts petty when things don't go his way. In no world would I let my son do every aspect of getting ready to go out for 4 children while I did nothing. Y'all need counseling yesterday. At the very last minute we decided on a costume for H, the 1-month-old boy. That would include some hard embroidery on my part. If your husband was at work, you decided at the last minute. Not we. And why were pieces of the costumes in the wash? Were they so complicated? The party didn't start until 4:30, and it was 1:30 and you needed to shower and had clothes in the dryer and wanted to put makeup on the kids. And party was a half hour away and it takes 15 minutes to get kids in and out of the car. It's not different love languages. You're both still approaching marriage and children like children yourselves. Please get help for the both of you. He can't just stop being there for you or the kids because he's upset. That's irresponsible, immature, and quite frankly, especially with so many kids in the house, cruel to make you take care of absolutely everything. There's a problem in anger management, and it needs to be solved if this relationship is going to last and be healthy. Get counseling. It's not your job to make him hear or value what you are saying. Get a counselor to do that work. 1. He is not ignoring the children. He is playing with them even when angry with you. 2. He was doing his job until you came and started nitpicking since you want everything done in your ways. 3. You don't remember he has this hard too. Coming from work and taking care of children. 1. He doesn't realize how much you put in for him and the children. 2. Him freezing you out is not gonna solve anything. Only increase resentment. 3. He doesn't communicate. You both need to come up with a way to talk it out. Does he even see the pattern here? I understand this, lady, because my husband and I have the same problem. I am a little OCD and controlling and germaphobe. I am not saying you are any of these. My husband is around all kinds of human dirt all day since he is a doctor, and he doesn't care much about folding or keeping or doing things a certain way. We don't have children yet, and I know this situation is inevitable for us. But we have realized this early on, and whenever something like this happens, that's how he deals with it, throwing his hands up in the air. It's just a personality clash. So, I do things my way and we leave each other alone for some time and don't complain about it. All I want to say is be patient with each other, because we try our best every day to accommodate each other's habits. It seems like he's trying here, but when it's not the way you want or plan, you aren't happy, so he just checks out. Pretty soon he's not going to even try. You need to put yourself in his shoes. You can't bicker over a few minutes, and who cares if kids get a bit of dirt on their costumes? It's Halloween. Costumes are meant to be enjoyed and played in. Life is short. He was trying to help. So next time, maybe when you get the urge to control everything and he's trying to help, let him. Men want to help, even if it doesn't follow your specific plan. He still has a teenage mind and needs to grow up and take responsibility as a man, nothing more. Pathetic then grown men who act like little boys. Stop including him in everything you do. Go get family pictures of you and your beautiful kids for yourself, but without him in it. Start sleeping in your own room. Make him the roommate you never wanted. I've been married 23 years to the asshole of the neighborhood, and it's all that doesn't work. Put X-Lax in his hot cocoa and tell him I have a good night. Simple. Sounds like weaponized incompetence to me. Personally, next time he tries something like that, I'd just take the kids and visit family for a few days. Since he doesn't want to help. Why should your children have to face consequence for an argument between you two? Weird.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.